Hello, welcome to this new series, Jess on Leadership. So because I have had the opportunity to be in a number of different leadership development spaces and to grow in my own leadership, I'm taking to heart this idea that when we teach, that if we want to learn more about something, we need to teach about it. So that's kind of what this 4-part series is based on. It's a little bit of a, I want to teach about this, but it's also, I want to learn and continue to learn it for myself. In this first episode, I want to talk about strong leadership, then inclusive leadership, then the third video will be on compassionate leadership, and the fourth video will be on personal leadership. So it just so happens I'm just about finishing up Inner Shift's Inclusive Leadership Program. So I'll be finishing that up next week. And one of the books that we're reading is Adam Grant's Think Again. I'm also very grateful and humbled to be having just started this week in the Center for Compassionate Leadership Program. So I'm very, very excited to continue to grow in my own ability to be more compassionate in my leadership. So I want to get into 3 things that make a strong leader. And the very first thing is you're not afraid of conflicting opinions, pushback, and input. So I'm going to read a little excerpt from Think Again by Adam Grant, and Chapter 4, The Good Fight Club, The Psychology of Constructive Conflict. And here he writes, rethinking depends on a different kind of network, a challenge network, a group of people we trust to point out our blind spots and help us overcome our weaknesses. Their role is to activate rethinking cycles by pushing us to be humble about our expertise, doubt our knowledge, and be curious about new perspectives. This is key. Resilience in leadership requires that anytime we act to lead, we are able to stay in our sense of value and worth, and this kind of gets into the 7 pillars of empowered mindset. So that first pillar being your innate value and worth. So you're able to stay in that innate value and worth, or growth mindset, you might think about. You're not swayed by other people's opinions, pushback, or input in a negative way. You might take that input in and use it. You might process it and then discern, is that something for now or something for later? Or you might, again, listen, process, and then maybe decide, no, this isn't input that is helpful for me right now, so I'm just going to set that aside. So I think it's very important for us, in order to not get into that defensive headspace, that we're able to sit with that pushback or that input or those conflicting opinions. This is why surveys are key. I think anytime that you do a talk or that you facilitate a workshop, I think that if you want to develop yourself as a leader, take the risk, put a survey out there so that you can improve. That's what the survey is for. Yes, you can get some really good positive feedback if you're delivering a good talk or a good workshop, and certainly that can be used in marketing. But also think of those surveys as a way to better understand where people are at and what their needs actually are, and to see if you met them. And then start to better develop, okay, how can I meet those needs? Again, that's in the case if you're doing a talk or a workshop, or even as a boss, right? Getting those surveys. Number 2, delegate the tasks you are not strong in to those who have the expertise. Trust your team or ask yourself why you don't. So, for many of us, especially if we're entrepreneurs, we're not necessarily working with a team. However, we can gain some input and some better understandings or lean into the expertise of others in other ways. So maybe we're not great at bookkeeping, so we can get into some networking spaces and look for people that are good at that. Maybe we're not good at website development. We can look for people that can help us with a website, help us with social media, these kinds of things. A lot of networking spaces have programs built right in, or that they offer where you can learn how to do these things either on your own, or you can learn from people who may be selling services that you can try out. But if you are working with a team, for example, whether in an organization or for-profit or nonprofit, knowing your team members and their strengths and your own strengths and weaknesses is so important. Like we have to know each other, at the very least, in that professional sense, where we understand where someone is strong in a particular area and where somebody might be a little bit more weak, so that we can know how to delegate those tasks. And if we don't trust our team, then we need to understand, is that an us problem, our individual self problem, a problem of control, or is that a problem of somebody on the team? And then that bleeds into the third aspect of being a strong leader is honest, transparent, and consistent. So if we want to build trust in our communities, on our teams, we have to be honest. We cannot, and I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin, so we have a real problem with Midwest nice. We need to learn how to stop beating around the bush, stop tiptoeing around subjects, and be honest, be clear, be direct. Be clear, be direct. Make sure that you know what you're saying and that the person that you're saying it to knows what you are saying. Leave no room for error there. Don't make assumptions. Don't make people have to read your mind. Be transparent. This is accountability. If you see, if you have made an error, admit that you have made an error. And I understand there is some liability there, and I know I'm going to hit some nerves with that idea of transparency, especially when it comes to making errors, making mistakes. But if we're going to stay on our integrity, and if, again, we're going to build trust, we have to be transparent. I'm not talking about, spilling your guts, doing the whole tell-all memoir to your teams or to your colleagues or to your professional networks. But I am talking about making sure that there's no reason that you have created for people not to trust you. And if there is, to take accountability and remedy that. And then consistency. So staying consistent with how, when you're answering messages. Again, this goes into transparency and honesty. Maybe you only check your messages once a day, or twice a day. Make sure that people understand, especially people that are on your team or people who are clients or customers, make sure that they know when they can expect to hear from you. And this is, again, I'm teaching because I'm also learning, and there are some of these things that I am not always very good at. So I want to work on those things as well. Consistency is also about flexibility. So digging our heels into a certain way of doing things is not necessarily in the guise of consistency, is not necessarily what we're talking about. However, staying consistent in our ability to adjust according to new learnings is a consistency. What I mean by that is if we learn new information. So for example, I recently learned that in some studies, meditation was shown to have detrimental effects. And because of this, the recommendation is to have some kind of warning when you're guiding meditation. This is true when you're guiding any physical practice online. This is also true when you're talking about certain things online. You'll see people have their disclaimers. And so now what I have done is anytime I put a yoga or meditation video out there, I put it out there now with a new disclaimer saying that this may not be for everyone. And I'm very clear with the fact that this is not a replacement for therapy. This is not a replacement for physical therapy, but putting the responsibility then, so I'm taking the responsibility for making sure that I'm letting people know that there's possible risk. And I'm also putting the responsibility on the person by saying, okay, now you understand if you participate, you're responsible for any injuries that you may incur. And again, this is just about being consistent with when I learn something, I change the way that I do things. So that is what I have for you today on strong leadership. Stay tuned for the next video where I will be talking about inclusive leadership. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Peace.